Wait, if we have like... One.
And welcome everybody to this pilot episode of ExCog Radio. I will be your main host or co-host main host today, Mr. Angel Lux from Lich. Joining me today is Mr. Kida, Aoki Kida. Is that how I pronounce your first name? I'm still bad at it, sorry.
Aoki
Kida. He is my other.
Yes.
He's the other main host on the podcast going forward, and we have Mr. Variel Ambergold, also from Lich, joining us today, a co-host or a main guest or whatever you want to call him going forward too, I think. Variel.
All right.
Oh, infamous busybody.
Right. So yes, this is the pilot episode of ExCog Radio. It's the working title we have right now, at least, and we are gonna be a Final Fantasy 14 and when there's nothing to talk about in FF, other gaming podcast stuff. But right now there's a lot of stuff happening in FF, and we're gonna talk about some of that today. And we're gonna start the basically just off with introducing ourselves a bit more. So yes, I am Mr. Angel Lux, or Angel if you want to call me whatever, from Lich. I have been playing this game since 2.2 regularly. I made my character back in beta, tried it out, joined at the summer afterwards, and have basically been playing on and off since then. I got a house back in 2014, so I've invested a lot of time in that, and then the auto demolition made it so I never could have subs, so I've been stuck in this game ever since, like a prisoner. And now I've been lately opening up a bit more and starting to give back to the community and help people out, because I've been playing this game for almost 11,000, 12,000 hours. I've learned a lot and I want to share that knowledge. So yeah, that's basically quick and short about me. Mr. Kida, do you want to say something or introduce yourself?
Well, so my name is Aoyuki. Most people just call me Dean. And we, I run IGG, or Independent Gaming, on Lich. And we do a lot of stuff together as an FC. I'm one of the biggest, probably FCs on Lich, in terms of at least a strong player base. I also will be running with Mr. Lux here, we'll be running a raiding Discord as well for all of the Light Data Cluster.
We have a lot of small little projects and plans in the making, both me and Mr. Kida here. And we're gonna see if we can get a lot of those things up and running. The raiding Discord, yes, is one of them. We had some fun runs there already, and we're also helping a lot of the people leveling through Eureka right now to reach the Baldesion Arsenal, but that is our main topic for today, so we won't go into that quite yet. So, Mr. Variel, do you want to give a short introduction about yourself?
Well, my name's Variel Ambergold, and compared to these two, I probably haven't been playing as long. I joined shortly after the release of 4.1, so I missed all the fun stuff like Black Mages with Raging Strikes, but I was around for all of the not fun stuff like Ventures being things that had to be held in your inventory. I don't really do as much as these two, but I seem to be getting involved in a lot of the things that Angel's been up to recently. If you've been watching his streams, you might recognize me as one of the party leaders. The most cursed party leader.
That is very true. Mr. Variel here has been a party leader quite regularly on our BA runs as party number 4, and he's been regularly the last person to fill and the first person to die, and other very interesting curses around him. So
It took me like 20 runs to get my Ozma clear because things kept going horribly wrong. At one point, someone who was my friend joined ended up being a party leader, and so on their very first run, they got their Ozma clear, which was awesome. Meanwhile, I got killed by the lightning storm in Raiden because of lag, which was not awesome.
oh yeah, it happens, it happens. So yeah, we already touched a little bit about it on this BA stuff, but before we do that, there's some stuff in Final Fantasy 14 some people not might be aware of. There's the Garo event is drawing to a close soon, so if you haven't got on that, you need to do your PvP stuff. You need to get to the Wolfden, you need to get a full set of one job, and then talk to the disreputable dude there and get a title. With that title, you need to win 10 frontline games, 10 feast games, and 30 10 or frontline games in total to get 3 different mounts, which are going away in 5.1 if I remember correctly. So get on that if you haven't already.
For those who are wondering what the items look like, at least for the healer, you can see I have the Astro Weapon and the body piece for the female characters. It is bought at the entrance to the Wolf's Den if anyone's wondering.
And there's a lot of people.
There's also,
yeah, go on, Vera.
if you're having problems getting into PvP like I do all the damn time, there are plenty of PvP discords out there. I strongly recommend joining one of them, seeing as PvP seems to not be in a great state, well, ever, and certainly not now given the server split, and it's the run-up to the new expansion, and everything else going on.
Yeah, PvP definitely took a blow this expansion overall with the revamp from the old way of doing PvP when they condensed all the combos and basically removed all the abilities from most of the classes. On
one hand, it got rid of a lot of the cheese. On the other hand, I wish I was around for Black Mage being able to cast sleep and just sleep the entire
That was a lot of fun things back then. Like, I mained Dragoon for the longest time, even in PvP. And even back in Heavensward, when you had to do your Blood of the Dragon rotation and all that. No, you didn't really. You played it as more like an assassin. Okay, there's someone with low health, pop Blood of the Dragon, jump in with all your jumps, do some quick damage on him, burst him down basically, and then jump back out. That's how you should supposed to play Dragoon, at least in my opinion. But yeah, a lot of like old PvP players like Yo Never Dies and other people, they have left and quit the game because PvP is just not enjoyable anymore. Square Enix even tried to push it as an esport back then. Didn't really become successful because they just kept changing stuff and it was never really a good place ever. But still, people still enjoyed it, but not so much anymore.
To be honest, PvP in all MMOs could never become a competitive esport just due to the kind of aspect of it. It's sort of like saying, and I know this is an odd comparison to make, but the likes of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds or Fortnite or Apex aren't esports because they're too big.
Exactly.
You can't have something with that many players as an esport, realistically.
No.
Yes, in the certain scenarios with the 5v5s, you probably could, but it's still not all that competitive to watch. It's not like watching a League of Legends game, for example.
Yeah, and I watched one of the early PUBG tournaments, and one of the real issues they had was like they did not know how to cast it or show it. Like the casters even became frustrated when they were when the dude that was controlling the camera decided to jump to something else they were actually not talking about anymore. There was we missed fights that were going on because someone decided to switch the camera perspective to someone looting on the other side of the map. It's like, why? It became better, but how do you do esports in a game with 100 people in it? Just to take PUBG as an example. Esports overall, like Counter-Strike, it's been around for so long. It's a staple, but it's also a very simple game, and that is what makes it good. But it's also not balanced completely. There needs to be that like dynamic that things can happen. I played Overwatch a bit recently, and I feel that dynamic in there, but there's also a little bit too much in Overwatch to keep track of, in my opinion.
Very true.
I mean, to be fair, perfect balance is extraordinarily boring. The only game that you can say is perfectly balanced is tic-tac-toe, and yeah, try playing competitive tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, it's gonna be draws upon draws upon draws, because there's not any winning moves when you're facing off against a player that is on the same skill level. It's the same with like playing old Ricochet or Ricochet or whatever it was called in Half-Life. Like, it was a very, very skill-based game. You only needed to get hit once. It was basically an insta-gib with, not insta-gib weapons, not like throwing discs. It was a high skill level game, but it never really took off, because that's just what it is. It was a really high skill level game, but on a very simplistic level. Some people really enjoy that, some don't. I don't know. Oh well, let's get back to Final Fantasy maybe. There was also a picture posted on Instagram today, apparently, from one of the new zones, an Aetheryte. Let's see if I can pull that up on stream, because I didn't prepare this. Whoopsie. I think, Dean, you can probably pull it up on your stream, right?
Yep.
See if I can.
Oh, I'll bring Discord over onto my other screen. And anyone that's wondering, it was the Aetheryte, one of the new Aetherytes for
Nice.
the new expansion, and it looks absolutely beautiful.
That actually makes me think of Limsa Lominsa.
It kind of reminds me of Limsa Lominsa, but like in a darker kind of theme.
Yeah.
Like well, not less for Limsa Lominsa, but the areas around it, like that looks
like
almost
around
exactly like Swift Perch.
Yeah, around Swift
if
Perch.
Swift Perch wasn't turned into an uninhabitable wasteland filled with dodos.
Yeah, but around Aleport or Swift Perch there, yeah, that Shingani area, Beast Tribe area, in Limsa or Las Nosea, yeah. It definitely reminds me of that too. There is that little weird tower thingy there on the background at the bottom left. A structure of some sort. Can that be a town? I don't know. Hard to tell.
Oh yeah. That looks like a wall.
Some spires.
Trump's wall?
Yeah, some spires and some towers. I don't know. Looks cool at least.
I mean, to me, that just looks like a rock.
Well, like...
Sorry, that just looks like a rock that's been worn into a tower-like shape by the ocean.
Yeah, it could have been. Like, it could have just been one of those, like, cliffside rocks that were plummeted by the sea for the longest time. And then they put some, like, guard spires or watchtowers or lighthouses or whatever it's supposed to be on there. Huh.
Yeah.
Like, I have to say, I'm actually really impressed with the way the new zones are looking and how they're designed. Like, I wasn't really blown away by much who was shown with Stormblood. Outside of Yangsha and Asim Steppe, which didn't look impressive when we saw it, but I really loved Asim Steppe after when I visited it in-game.
I mean, as a prolific gatherer, I've spent an inordinate amount of time in the Stormblood zones, and you can clearly tell that they cared more about Othard than Girabanya.
Oh yeah.
It's like you go to Othard, and it is lush, it is colorful, it is varied. You have everything from the Ruby Sea to the rolling plains of the Azim Steppe. When you go to Girabanya, it's do you want dusty brown with the light tint of green, dusty brown with immense amounts of salt, or dusty brown but you're getting shot at by a Garlean?
Yeah. And that's one of the theories I actually have, one of my major theories about Final Fantasy. I will just give you the condensed version. But back in 1.0, we already knew that Alamigo and Ishgard was gonna be a thing. It was mentioned quite preliminary in the lore. So when Yoshi P took over, he had to first of all fix Eorzea, and then Ishgard and Alamigo were already on the docket. They did Ishgard, that was their first expansion. They were like, okay, we are on track. Now maybe Yoshi P and the team wants to do some of their own shit, but Alamigo was still there. They still needed to do Alamigo. Tanaka Legacy, basically, 1.0 Legacy, was still promised to the community. So instead of giving Alamigo an entire expansion, Yoshi P and the team decided to give it half an expansion and actually do what they wanted to do more with Kugane and Othard. That's my theory, at least.
I mean, I've mentioned something more or less to that effect to most of the people in my FC, and regardless of whether you think it's necessarily that or something else, you can clearly tell the devs did not care as much about Alamigo as they did about Yangja. I mean, even compare Lise and her character arc and her becoming the new leader, how much time she got compared to glorious Princeling Hien and the insane amount of screen time that he got.
And again, this expansion was named Stormblood. How many people died? There was like 2 minor characters, one called Conrad and one I don't even remember. Those are the only people that actually died. More people died in the 2.55 ending cutscene. Sure, there were minor characters, but at least they died. I'm not saying I want people to die, but you know, you were telling us all the time that Final Fantasy was going back to this more greedy roots and Stormblood, you know, I don't know.
I mean, Stormblood may not have killed its players in a Game of Thrones style spree, but I don't necessarily think it was that bad. I mean, honestly, after Heavensward, I'm glad that Stormblood wasn't in quite that grittier tone. Ishgard is the physical embodiment of seasonally affected depression seeping into your senses.
Yeah. I think overall Stormblood for most people was kind of underwhelming anyways in terms of overall expansion. Like, we came out of probably the best story of Heavensward, you know? Like, there was no beating that story. And I think now all they have to hope is with the, what is it, Shadowbringers? God, why do they have to have another SP? But with Shadowbringers, they're going to have to up their story to make it interesting, to make people want to really, really connect with the game again, you know, go, I want to see this character. Like, how many characters can you say that you had a better connection to than Lord Horsefont in Heavensward? You know? He was one of the nicest characters you could meet. He took you in the time of need, all this, and then he dies.
Well, I mean, before that, Harshaphont was introduced way before Heavensward. He was not necessarily a major character, but he was a prominent character in the Coerthus parts of the ARR storyline. So he was quite well established. I think I found that in my experience, I think a lot of people overstate the problems with Stormblood because of how good Heavensward was. Like, a lot of people like, oh, Stormblood's god awful, they gutted the classes, the story was shit, they've ruined the game. When really the only problem that Stormblood had was the story was kind of mediocre compared to Heavensward.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
actually, mechanically speaking, I think that Stormblood is significantly better than Heavensward. The 24-mans are more mechanically interesting. The 8-man raid was more interesting. The fights have become more complex. And there's a lot of moments in the content in Stormblood which the community have absolutely loved. I don't think I've met a single person whose reaction to catching the sword in Suzuno wasn't something along the lines of
I do agree that they added a lot of very interesting mechanics this expansion to, like, bosses and dungeons, and like rather than like adding them into Savage content, which was kind of what was done in Heavensward, where the harder content or like more mechanics was added into other like Savage content in Heavensward, and there wasn't really much changes in terms of like how combat was going to act in a dungeon. But in Stormblood, there was a lot of dungeons that added in new mechanics that were really interesting. Like,
I mean, a good example of that is literally the very first boss, the very first dungeon of Stormblood, the Siren Song Sea. The
Virgin Tears one?
Yeah, the final boss, Lorelei, with her forced march mechanics, and you had to avoid being just run right into a dot puddle that would melt you.
And And the boss, I think it's the second boss, second boss, where basically you have to dodge his puddles by reading where his minions go.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of gameplay, this is unpopular opinion alert, but in terms of gameplay, Stormblood is superior to Heavensward in almost all retrospects. It's just that a lot
Story
of people...
sucked.
Yeah. Not even all of the story.
No.
A lot of people
Towards the
I
end,
know,
it got really good.
a lot of people I know like the 4.x storyline.
Yeah.
But aside from Xenos, pretty much most, if not all, of the 4.0 storyline was most of it wasn't even bad. It was worse than bad. It was boring.
Yeah.
And not just was it boring, it was pretty like disfigured, disjointed. Like it was split up between two continents and two different conflicts, that the only common uniting thing was the enemy. And sure, that kind of works, and I don't know.
Like,
but I would admit,
was,
yeah, go.
The idea was, hey, let's go to Doma, let's cause problems in Doma, let's force the Guardians to split their armies so we can take back Alamigo because they're too entrenched, which is a perfectly valid and reasonable idea. The issue with that is they put almost no effort into keeping the Alamigo and the Doma storylines concurrent. I mean, we basically just left Alamigo completely and did nothing there all the way up until Doma was free, and then proceeded to hop, skip, and jump over a river of Gallian corpses all the way up to the Alamigan gate.
Yeah, and I would admit I did have a little tear of joy when that we brought down the gates of Alamigo, because I thought something epic was about to happen. I thought we were gonna about to unlock a new part of the map and like go into the city and have like an instance fight. No, we got a dungeon.
Just to add as well, I think with the story, because someone commented on the stream that they said they liked both Heavensward and Stormblood's main story, and I think it's gonna come down to personal taste as well when you think about it. What's your personal taste on it? Me personally, I loved Heavensward because I love dragons. Who doesn't like dragons, right?
Yeah.
Interdimensional aliens have come to steal our children.
And I do think in a matter of taste, it does have to come down to, well, in a matter of thing, it comes down to taste, you know? Whether or not you liked the story or not. I gotta say, I didn't like the beginning of Stormblood, but the end of it was really good.
Yeah.
It started to come together and really made me like it a bit more. And solidified kind of like things that I wasn't sure about.
Yeah. Like,
which, don't get me wrong, Heavensward also done at the end of itself.
Oh yeah. But I would really like to say that
also
go on. I would just like to say like everything in Stormblood story-wise, yes, as you said, it started off slow. It had its moments, it definitely had. But everything that happens in the Asim step, I would say, is pretty good. Like, even in the main story, the first time you go through there with the Nadam, that whole thing, and with all the different tribes, I've never was the biggest, like, lore fan of auras, but I always digged how auras look, like, especially the females one. Maybe not the male one so much, but, you know. But getting there and seeing all these different tribes and how their society worked and how brutal it was, like, in this setting, and that's, like, almost nomadic tribe sort of thing, was like, this is really cool. And going back there the second time, not to spoil any current 4.x story, but that was brilliant and I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Given the problem isn't that the Stormblood story was bad. The Stormblood story was serviceable at its absolute worst and genuinely really fun and enjoyable at its best. The problem is that the Stormblood story was worse than Heavensward.
Yeah, and I think everyone can agree with that at least.
Like, if Stormblood came out before Heavensward, and
then it would have been a great story.
Everyone would have loved Stormblood. The issue is this that people compare it to Heavensward, and it's just,
It's an unfair comparison.
I've seen a lot of people compare Heavensward to other really popular expansions. Like, I've seen a lot of the WoW MMOs that I've played, WoW refugees that I've played with, compare it to Wrath of the Lich King.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a big one.
Yeah, like Heavensward was everything that an expansion should be. It dramatically expanded the gameplay. It built on the story in every way. It was both a more interesting story and expanded the world's lore. The areas that it brought out were fascinating. The cast of characters were good, and even at the absolute lowest points, it was still a fascinating and interesting story. There was pretty much nothing bad in Heavensward. Well, obviously it wasn't completely and utterly perfect. Everything has problems, but it was better than the base game in every single way. It is exactly what an expansion should have been. So then, coming on to Stormblood, Stormblood doesn't have to be better than the base game. It has to be better than Heavensward. And in the eyes of the community, it isn't, and that's undeniable, because what did Heavensward bring us? Heavensward brought us Flight. It brought us 3 new classes. It brought us significant mechanical improvements to every class. It brought us a more refined and more interesting gameplay loop. Stuff like you can get totem drops from primals, so you don't have to grind for 9 months straight to get the specific weapon that you want. Whereas a lot of what Stormblood brought us was more quality of life thing, like Beastman currencies and ventures being rolled into the currency tab, fights having more unified AoE markers, the classes generally played smoother, except for Dark Knight and Machinist, the poor bastards.
Well, they had 2 years to fix it, and they kind of realized they couldn't. So we see in Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
I think another thing that they really made a huge difference with in Stormblood, right, in terms of classes, was definitely the cross-class abilities. And I think anyone can remember when you had to level Dragoon to get Bard. Would know what I mean by that.
Yeah. Or as I mentioned earlier, I'm too much of a sprout to have actually been around back then. But there was stuff like every tank had to level Paladin for Provoke.
Yeah.
Like, the issue with the cross-class skills is a lot of people look back on them with rose-tinted glasses, being like, oh, I could multi-class a little. I could pick up Cure on my Black Mage. I could bring along a buff on my tank. I could expand beyond my rolls slightly. But in general, the vast majority of cross-class actions were absolutely mandatory anyway. Like Swift Cast from Black Mage, Lucid Dreaming from White Mage, Provoke from Paladin.
Yeah.
And never mind if you wanted to do full-on raiding, like when I done raiding in Heavensward, I had to level Dragoon for Blood for my Bard, and I didn't want to play Dragoon.
No,
Yeah,
but
like,
that was also.
I do think that the role action system is a bit too far, because the role action system still has the issue of all of the skills being either mandatory good
or absolute garbage.
Situational garbage. Like for example, for the
Crutch.
Black Mage role actions. I have been playing this class. I've been maining this class constantly since I first started playing this game. I have 3,000 hours into this class, essentially. How many times have I used Break or Drain in serious content? No. I never have.
Like, I want to add on to this entire discussion. So, you were talking about the cross-class system 2.0 with rose-tinted glasses. Like, one of the things you need to remember about that system, it was also in place to pad the game, because there wasn't that much content. But with the release of Shadowbringers or Stormblood, there was a lot of content. There was too much content. Unsyncing had become a real thing because a lot of people don't want to bother learning those content on when there were new fancy abilities to be used. People didn't really like that you couldn't use the stuff, and instead of scaling it down, Square Enix thought it was better to just let that kind of content basically be unrespected, I would say, and just be unsynced and just be beaten down with by whatever. But back to the role actions. So yeah, like in the beginning of Shadowbring or Stormblood, I started raiding and I did it on Samurai, and it wasn't hard to pick what abilities I needed and didn't need. Things like diversion was mandatory, but it was barely working back then, remember that too. But I have still, to this day, never used Crutch. Ever in a situation. I have never seen a situation where someone has had a slow debuff that I could have cleansed from them.
I don't even remember exactly how Crutch works.
Pull it up real quick.
Removes bind and heavy from target party member other than self. Like, everything about this ability is just terrible. Like, it's on a 1.5-minute cooldown. The vast majority of status effects in this game cannot be cleansed. Bind and heavy are, in the majority of fights, either largely ignorable or so bad that you're not going to have enough time to use Crutch on them before they get turned into a smear on the ground.
Exactly.
And you can't use it on yourself.
No. So when would you ever use that ability? Like, I can't even think of a situation outside of like 2.0 contents.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's just the other issue with cross-class actions. I remember not carrying Lucid Dreaming and Diversion on my Black Mage. Oh yes, because at the time I only really did casual content, and it was a choice between take one of those or drop Shorecast, which just allows you to flat out ignore several mechanics.
Yeah.
Or
But Square Enix basically confirmed themselves that the role actions are a failed system. Like, most classes only really needed 1 or 2 more slots to make it completely viable. But they gave us all of them. Like, here, you complained about not having the role actions, here you go. But yeah, we also complained about hotbar space. Oh yeah, can we get new hotbars? No, PS2 limitations or whatever.
PS2 limitations. Yeah, sometimes it does feel like they're doing that, though. Yoshi P, please collapse actions. People can put on Paladin, you know, as an example, turn the Rage of Helone combo into one button that rotates through, so you can just hit 1, 1, 1.
Please don't do that. Mr. Dean, what were you gonna add there?
Actually, I think you could slightly do that, but with a lot of macros. And I mean a lot.
But it has been pretty defunct already that macros in combat is not a thing you want to do because there is a delay on every macro line.
Yeah,
that's if you do it in a different way. So you can technically make, you know, the collapsing macros that I'm not sure, but people on my stream can actually see these collapsing macros that I have going on right now, right? And technically with this system, you could actually just add within that macro the next spell it's going to go on to, and then it's going to move to that. And then that could actually be your 1-1-1 combo, if you want to call it that. Because they have a pretty instantaneous reaction.
It might work, but then again, why play the game at that point?
You say
why play
that.
the game at that point? But the point is being.
Well, you say that, but that's not actually going to reduce the complexity of your classes. You still have the same abilities; they still function the same way.
I'm
it's just
wondering.
That you don't have to hit 3 different buttons.
I just wonder in that scenario, Mr. Dean, what happens if I have to break a combo? If there's an interruption in a fight, do I just keep spamming that button until resets
if you have to break the combo, let's say you're running away from the boss, for example, right? It's not a continuous macro, right? you're actually pulling up a new hotbar each time. I think this would be rather complex to explain now.
Okay.
Because of the complexity of the expanding macros themselves. But basically, you're switching to a new hotbar, and then you're pressing the ability again. So you're actually pressing the 1 key 3 times, for example, right? So each time you press it, it's going to bring you to the new part of the combo. However, I do think the huge flaw with this would be resetting the combo if, let's say, it's been over 5 seconds. I can't remember how long you have until you can mash the next key.
I think it's 7 or 8.
7 or 8 seconds. The problem is you'd have to manually reset that, which would have to be another key.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about expanding macros, yeah, but if this was the actual game feature,
This is a game feature.
No, sorry. I'm talking about if you did what I suggested, where you collapse the macros into a button where you actually can just hit 111 instead of having to play around with expanding macro. You can just simply make it so that your combo can only be executed 1, 2, 3, and if the combo breaks, the button just resets at the start of the combo, because there's essentially no reason to use any of your combo abilities out of combo, because not only does that absolutely gimp the potency, in the vast majority of the time, the secondary effect, like boosted potency on your boosted aggro on your aggro combo, only activates when it's done in combo.
I do think the one thing people have to remember about Final Fantasy compared to other MMOs now is back when, let's start back in WoW when it came out. Well, not really when it came out, when it started getting popular and there was a few expansions. You had loads of buttons and people love this, right? But then they dumbed down the game and people started to dislike them, you know? And look at Guild Wars, where sure it has a good player base, but it doesn't have as many because the game's so simple in terms of you only can press 7 buttons or so, if I'm mistaken.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, that's still a poor comparison, because in Guild Wars, for example, you can only carry a maximum of 24 abilities, I think it is. You get 2 hotbars of 6 per weapon, and you can carry 2 weapons. It's been a while since I played Guild Wars. But FF has a lot more abilities. For example, I'm looking at my Paladin hotbars right now, and all... Please, no. Ugh. I still can't get them set up the way I like. It's impossible.
It is impossible.
There's... All of my hotbars are completely full. Even if you collapsed Paladin's combos, it would still require 3 buttons. 1 for the aggro combo, 1 for the damage combo, and 1 for the alternate damage combo finisher, because Paladin has 2 damage combo finishers. Even then, I will have my 3 buttons for my combos, a button for Spirits Within, a button for Total Eclipse, a button for Circle of Scorn, a button for Flight of Flight, a button for Requiescat, a button for Holy Spirit, a button for Flash, and for Divine Veil, Hallowed Ground, for Clemency, for Shields. It goes on and on and on. The issue is that they're either going to have to continue paring down the classes like they did between Heavensward and Stormblood, which not only screws over classes in lower level content, but it just keeps them at the same level of complexity constantly without actually adding anything, or they're going to have to get more creative at lowering hotbar space.
Well, I think we can put a pin in this discussion for now, because we can probably talk about this for hours. We should probably move on to our main subject for today. What do you guys think?
Thank you.
So,
yeah, so we should.
Yes, so we mentioned a little bit earlier that this BA stuff, and Variel has been joining me on runs. So what is this BA? This Baldesion Arsenal thingy we've been talking a bit about. So you probably have heard about this Eureka business in Shadowbringers, these open world zones you go in and suffer and get your relics in. Well, at the end of that suffering, there is actually some content. Some fun content. It's, I never played old school WoW, but a lot of people compare it to old school WoW raiding. There's 56 people running through a raid at the same time. It's not super hard content. It's more on the lines of 24-man difficulty with heaven on high mobs for trash. And there is a kind of permadeath rule. sorta you can circumvent, but it costs a lot and only healers can do it. But normal races doesn't work in there. But so, yeah, that's basically the short gist of it. It's a 56-man little unique spin twist thing on hardcore content, midcore hardcore content, so to say, in this game. I'm gonna show a bit of footage on my stream just from one of my runs, just in the background so people get a little bit of idea for people that haven't seen it before. So
I would say, oh, sorry.
yeah, so this was released in February, somewhere around that, guys. Help me. February.
Which released?
The content.
The
BA content. It was released somewhere in. I think it was February or late February, early March, or whatever it was.
I was late joining into it.
Yeah, I was in there week 2 or week 1. I can't remember. I joined this only Discord that was really running it, and it had to close down after a couple of days for recruitment because everyone wanted to get in there. It took me like a solid.
It came out in 4.5.
And when was that exactly?
I'm trying to find out exactly when that came out. 4.5 was in January the 8th. 4.55 came out pretty soon afterwards, so February sounds about right.
Yeah. So February then. So yeah, back in February, somewhere around there, I started running this content on a big Discord. That was
February the 12th.
February the 12th, okay. So around there, I started running this BA stuff over on my bigger Discord. That was basically the only Discord I was doing stuff back then. Some other Discord started popping up, and I got my kill, I got my fragments from there so I could get my best gear for Eureka. Then I thought I was pretty done, but then I found this small little Discord that was doing BA stuff. There was like 20 people on there, and on the day I joined the first day. The second day there was 40 people on there. So I decided, hey, let's see if people want to do a run. So I made a little query about it. People wanted to do it, but somehow I ended up raid leader because the other dude that was there being an admin, he was busy. So I tried to organize a run. I even asked some of my static and FC friends if they want to join in and help me. They was like, nah, that doesn't seem like something we want to do. Okay, I guess I'm all alone. So I jump into this voice channel, 10 people join in the next 10 minutes or so, we fill up a party, no one has a mic open but me, I'm sweating my pants off, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, things started rolling slowly but surely, some other people joined with microphones, and we got 4 groups together, we got in there, we wiped on Art and Navain, but we had a lot of fun, and the day after we got 6 groups together, we wiped on Raiden, which is the second boss on the Baldesion Arsenal. And then the rest is history. It's just started rolling along since then, and after the server split, we decided to split the communities up into light and dark, or chaos and light, and I'm the head of the light side. We just reached 1,000 members on this Discord, and we're doing at least 1 to 2 of these 56-man runs every day, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. I'm live streaming it and having a lot of fun. And yeah, that's basically the big and short gist of BA, really, like what it is and what it can be. So yeah. What else is there to say? Like, I've done it a long time now. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and we don't even need to go through how it's been done. But Mr. Dean, you just joined. What has been your experience with BA so far?
Oh God! It's
Okay,
happening
Mr.
again.
Dean, you need to fix your microphone. It's happening again. Oh, nay.
I think that should sound better.
Yeah, you're back.
God, I actually feel my heart stop whenever that happens. It's genuinely terrifying.
For those who don't know what happened to my mic there, I'll pull this program up. It's a voice meter, and basically it sometimes likes to screw up, and I sound like an absolute monster apparently.
Yep, I used the same voice meter program, and it's weird. Let me say that.
Yeah, so it sometimes likes to screw up, sometimes it doesn't. I will try find a solution for this, but currently the solution is just to switch the audio track and back to its original. And well, back on track to what we were talking about, the BA, what I thought of it. I found it very interesting. Obviously, the one reason why I wanted to do BA was the Osman amount. I had no other reason to do it bar the Osman amount. I didn't care about the clear, the title, or anything else at that point. And when I got into it, I was like, wow, so this content's pretty interesting. It's like a mixture between... It's like a Savage 24 man, except with 56 people.
Yeah, basically.
But it's a little less than Savage because the mechanics aren't as intense. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Ozma definitely resembles how the Weeping City originally felt to me when I first done it.
Oh yeah, that was a slaughter back on release. Holy Ooh.
But it got even more intense with the, you know, the black hole mechanic that they added, which did add a little bit more complexity, and actually being able to read the boss's moves is also a little bit more difficult, which does make it very, very interesting for Ozma.
Yeah.
So overall, I've like really enjoyed it. I actually can't wait until I do a party lead for a PG run, it's actually an Ozma run on
Tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll be party leading for my first time. So those who are there, please be gentle.
I will be.
I'm a good party leader. I promise you, I will lead you to your death.
Just follow your leader all the way into the death. And I will be raid leading on that run tomorrow, and we will be having a lot of fun as usual, and hopefully get another kill on Ozma. The thing about Ozma, and I say hopefully, is there's 56 people there, and there's individual mechanics. There's lag, there's server tick issues, and there's visibility issues with effects and names and everything. Sometimes a mistake happens, and that can cause a wipe very, very easily. Just like an early pull can cause a wipe very, very, very easily even. So
I got one comment. Am I going to test more reflecting stuff? And the answer to that is absolutely. I've already tried reflecting many things, and believe me, I will find out what will reflect. Believe me, YouTube series, will it reflect?
Will it reflect?
It's going to be one episode.
Is this where I get to share the BA cheese that I discovered?
Yeah, go for it. Where are your experiences with BA, Mr. Variel? Go on for it.
My experience with BA is that it's extremely fun. It's not as bad as some people have made it out to. I wouldn't even say, man. Specifically, it's in the mid tier of 24 man. It's not as difficult as Ozma in the Weeping City or Thunder God in the Monastery.
Jeez.
The mechanics are fairly simple. It's just that the entire place extraordinarily unforgiving. Like, your foot was in that AoE because you didn't quite move fast enough. You're dead, and you're not getting back up. I'm not sure if Angel can show this to his stream or not, but he has a fantastic clip of the second boss from BA, Raiden, killing 95% of the group because they didn't manage to get out of one of his explosions because of a lag.
See if I can pull it up real quick.
It's like everyone stands in the middle, teleports halfway across the arena, and just drops like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
No, BA has fairly simple mechanics. It's just that they are extraordinarily unforgiving. For example, that exact mechanic, Raiden, if you haven't fought Raiden yet, Raiden has a mechanic where he will raise his sword and then it will start glowing, and he'll a couple seconds later he will lunge across the arena and instantly kill anyone on the side of the arena where his sword is glowing. At the same time, he will put an AoE under the feet of 4 different people, which hits for about 12k, I think it is. So the idea behind the mechanic is stack in the center to bait the AoEs, then move. That is an extraordinarily simple mechanic. There's more difficult stuff in other normal mode trials, but if you make a mistake, you die. And it's an entire dungeon of that. It's extraordinarily unforgiving for mistakes. The other thing that probably separates BA from regular content is that the air quotes trash mobs are extremely dangerous. It almost feels wrong calling them trash mobs, because one poorly pulled mob and half your group is dead. The best example of this is probably the BA Centaur, which the very first thing it will do is an auto attack. The second thing it will do is an ability called Berserk, which applies a gargantuan physical damage buff on it. It will then proceed to run around smacking tanks so hard that the only thing that's going to let them survive is the invulnerability move. 5 defensive Magicite, full elemental gear, and your tank wisdom up? No, you're still dying, my friend. So everything in BA is dangerous. Everything in BA has mechanics that you need to pay attention to. And everything in BA can kill you if you aren't careful, which is the thing that makes me like it particularly compared to a lot of other content.
Yeah, because like it's sort of like heaven on high in that regard. Like it's a high risk, high reward situation. And even if the reward might not be like monetarily or the drops at the end or the amount if you already have it or you don't care about it, the fights in and of itself, Ozma is rewarding enough to want to do. Like everyone says, they're so on edge and it's such a heart-pounding moment getting there. The first time I was doing callouts on Ozma, I was shaking in my chair so hard. I was so nervous. The first time I got my kill, I made a kill with the group, I almost cried. Like, oh, it was such an experience.
When I actually managed to finally beat Ozma and clear the BA, it was so bloody satisfying. I compared it to the time that I managed to clear O10S Savage, and for me particularly, my static for very, very different, for many reasons, was stuck on that fight for 5 bloody months.
Yikes.
When I finally cleared it, I screamed so hard it took my throat 3 days to recover. But that was the kind of satisfaction that I got when I finally beat Ozma.
I actually think my Ozma kill, or my first time calling out Ozma, I was more excited than I killed Uvu, because we had so many close calls with Uvu. The first time we met, started hitting in rage, I was like, okay, the fight's over, I've done it, I beat Uvu, now it's just like a matter of actually finishing it. But actually getting a kill on Ozma is so up to chance and people around you that it's just such a nice thing when the stars line up and it actually happens. Because it doesn't happen every day. That's for sure.
Like, I think the biggest problem with it all is the server tick lag, right? Where, let's say for the meteor mechanic, right? The problem with that, not only are you stacked with a load of people, so everyone kind of moves to see if they have the marker or not, but it also has a delay on who gets the marker, and then you're going to be delayed running to the right of the platform, trying to get over there, or to the back. And you can do what I actually had done, which is why we actually kind of wiped in our party. I didn't see that I had the AoE around me for ages. And I tried to run away, and I didn't have enough time. It's kind of why we wiped, so yeah. But, like, that happens not just to me, but to many people,
Yeah.
One time, one of the things that stopped me from getting my Ozma kill was the guy with Meteor actually DC'd for 5 seconds, but that was still enough to kill everyone on our platform and a bunch of people on the other 2 platforms.
Yeah, and like sometimes you can adjust to meet your misplacements, but with the server ticks, even if you do, sometimes it doesn't help. Even if you stand in the right position for Meteor sometimes when they're correctly placed, you still die randomly. It's happened to me on healer.
There's just something hilariously broken about the BA. even without the server tech, there's the mystery stairs
Oh
running
yeah.
up to Ozma that choose whether or not they actually exist. Yeah, anyone catching the stream that doesn't know, there is a big staircase that leads between the second to last boss, Absolute Virtue, and Ozma the Big Man himself. And multiple players have reported jumping on this staircase and then clipping through the staircase and falling into the void below.
And Screen said they fixed it, and there were reports afterwards that no, it wasn't fixed. So don't trust those stairs, people. And as Mr. Demonstalker points out in my Twitch chat, you only get one try. Yeah, and you spend maybe sometimes 1.5 hours getting there. People get nervous, and then one dude makes a mistake, and it's over.
I mean, if you're going to include playing the instance game as the time it takes to get into the BA, there was a run that
Sorry about that.
I went on with Angel, which from getting everyone in a party, getting into the instance, and all the way up to actually getting to Ozma was 4.5 hours.
And that is that's the worst week I ever had.
I actually made the mistake of accidentally pulling Ozma early because I was so tired. I slid to the side of my chair and accidentally ran into Ozma.
Well, stuff like this happens all the time, doesn't it?
And usually a BA run doesn't take more than 1.5 to 2 hours at most. Sometimes we get screwed by the instance because, remember, there's no way to queue into Hydatos at 56 people. We do these groups on PF outside, and then we have to somehow, through playing with the instances and manipulating them a bit, get 56 people into the correct instance. Sometimes we need to call for other people outside the run to help fill. Sometimes we have to beg for people to leave the instance so we can get the only one that's up because we can't overfill it. It's a real pain, and the instances has been really weird the last couple of days. I'm gonna have to try some new stuff soon, which I have in the plans, but we have entered an instance, gotten 2 free groups in there. That instance has locked, a new instance has opened, gotten 2 groups in there. The third group's getting a new instance, when we quit queuing, they only get the same instance. Then we send one group out from the primary instance, which has 90 people in it, and they get back in there. And we're sitting there like, what is going on? We don't understand the system anymore.
For that.
Yeah, the system doesn't work anymore. It has changed its own rules just the last 4 or 5 days. It's super weird.
There was also other weird things like the last run that I went on. No, the run where I actually got my clear. We almost called it off because Ovni, the giant jellyfish that you need to kill to actually get into the Baldesion Arsenal, was what, half an hour late?
Yeah, it just didn't spawn, and that's another step of the Baldesion Arsenal. You need to wait outside for a fate to spawn that doesn't have any spawn conditions. It just spawns normally when it can spawn, i.e. when there's no one in BA and the timer for BA has run out and it hasn't spawned for like 25 to 30 minutes. But sometimes he just doesn't want to spawn, or the instance closes, or whatever. But when we have killed, when you do kill OVNI, all 56 people will get marker or a portal buff, and then blue portals will spawn around the map, and we have to wait until those blue portals turn to red and then go in, which takes like 5 to 8 minutes. Why couldn't we just queue into this like a normal duty? It's so dumb on so many levels, and people go around clicking these portals when they're not supposed to, screwing other people over because Karini's can't program a list array properly. And there's a lot of people that just doesn't know about BA, and they're like, oh, shiny portal, what's this? And then people get a little bit sad and angry, and we try to not make a big deal out of it, but a lot of other people have reported and been almost harassing to people like this, scared them away from the content completely, because they just weren't aware, or they didn't speak the language, they hadn't heard the news. And then they click a portal, and then they got reported from 50 people, and got thrown into GM jail for something they didn't even know about. It's ridiculous.
Also, there's the issue about the stabilizers just basically not working.
Yeah, I mean, it was a somewhat smart idea, but everyone thinks you need one of those items. You don't. I thought you needed them. I got one before I went on my first BA round. It's like, don't use them. It's like, oh! Why did I spend 500 crystals on it? Hello? Why I don't need it? Okay, that's weird. No, it will screw people over. Okay. That doesn't really make sense, but sure.
Yeah, I don't get why they added in that system when it didn't really make sense to begin with the you know, stabilizers and stuff.
No, and I think
I really did think it.
Yeah, and they cost like 500
don't
crystals first, right? Or the items. So you're expecting 56 people to get these 500 crystals together for each run they're gonna do. No, they didn't. They nerfed that. They nerfed it to 100. Sure. But still, you can't expect everyone to show up with a stabilizer every time. That's a lot of grind, and believe me, I have a lot of plates and a lot of clusters. Last time I did moist box farming, I didn't get a single fucking thingy from there, so I couldn't make any stabilizers after 3 hours of work. It's like, why did I even bother?
You don't need 500 of 3 different crystals. You could alternatively go for a wildly time-consuming moist box farm and the absolute crapshoot of Hydatos clusters.
Yeah.
All the time I've spent in there, I only have 5 clusters.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we trade in the aetheryte flasks for stabilizers, please?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I use for the
Or at the very least, trade them in for the things that drop from the moist.
Yeah, like something at least. Now I have like, I'm gonna see how many I have in my inventory now, and I don't even actively farm them anymore. Let's see. I have. What was I looking for again? Tsukiyomi card. Oh yeah, I have 29 plates and I have 13 flasks. I also have 81 Pennificilia flames, if anyone's interested. Oh, why do I have all this shit? Oh my god. Oh well, oh well. There's a lot.
I think it's also starting to get to time for wrapping it all up.
Yeah. So we should probably start discussing the last little things we have on the outline. But yeah, that's basically BA, and we're probably gonna talk a bit more about it since we are so involved in it going forward. But yeah, that's basically it. And we want to plug some Discords and stuff. Just talk about that real quick, I think. Other than that, I don't think there was anything more to talk about.
First thing I just want to bring up is anyone who was listening from the beginning, the music that was playing is by Vey. I'll just pull up his full YouTube channel so that way I can actually make sure. It's just called Vey Music, V-A-E Music, and you can look him up. He's a very good artist. He doesn't have many views on YouTube, so please give him a load of likes and into his music. It's absolutely amazing, and he creates it all himself. It's full. So for those wondering where you can find it that are in the Twitch chat at the moment, I'll link it now. If not, if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be linked in the description below. And for everyone else, go on YouTube, look up VAE Music, space music, mind you, and you should find them very easily.
Yeah, I linked them over for my chat too. So that is just the music you heard from that stream. I was just using some OC remix stuff for the people that are already on my stream as a music bed while we were setting up the last stuff. And yeah, other than that, we have this raiding Discord. Me and Mr. Dean are hosting. If anyone is interested in any of these Discords we're talking about, we're going to provide links to them some way or another. Probably on the YouTube side of things more, because most of the people that are on live, I think, know what we're talking about. But other than that, yeah, we have the raiding Discord. We're gonna have a lot more Savage and Ultimate there for anyone that wants to try out, like wants to get into any of the content really, or just wants to do more stuff. It is hard finding people on PF. It's easier to ping somewhere where you know that everyone is nice, chill, and will probably join on voice and can communicate the fight in a much nicer, easier way for everyone. We just want to try to facilitate that, because Savage was something I was scared of for the longest time. I played this game since 2.x, and I didn't get into raiding until Stormblood. Think about that.
Yep. So just remember, guys. So this has been ExCog Radio.
Yeah, first inaugural pilot episode thingy.
Just one last point for Savage.
Go for it, my dude.
Generally, the first fight of the Savage tier isn't actually that bad. It's up there with, say, a Minstrel's Ballad or one of the worst extreme fights. So it's always a good time to cut your teeth on Savage raiding if you're interested. And just remember, you can never get experience unless you actually go and do it.
Yeah. So just experience it, guys. Savage isn't all that hard as people make it out to be.
No, it's not. And like we're
O9S, you can do within 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you have a good enough team.
Easily.
Actually, if you're on the raiding Discord, Mr. Lux ran a game with Julius, and Julius is an absolutely phenomenal Savage raid leader. So if you manage to get into a party with him, I'd say within the first try, you're probably going to clear it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good raiders over there, and a lot of people that are really nice and want to get into it. So anyone that's interested, feel free. We're gonna provide the links, and there also is a link already on my main Discord, the Citadel of Light, where we're hosting my FF community and the BA raids out of. And we will provide links to that, and we'll also provide links to IGG, Mr. Dean's community.
Yep.
And FC Discord.
Where we play mainly Final Fantasy, but we play a load of other random games. So if you're ever up for a good random game, and God knows what it could be, Counter-Strike, Rocket League, or even getting punched in the face by someone, that being Scribble, anything at all, just feel free to join us.
Yeah, I'll be dropping links to all the things we're talking about right now into my Twitch chat, if I can actually copy paste and do stuff in a somewhat timely manner and click the correct thingies. You know, stalling for time and filling dead air is one of the things that are really fun to do on a podcast just like this one.
Yeah.
So there is the Citadel of Light, the BA and main raiding Discord, or main community Discord for me. The second link there is for the raiding Discord, and the third link is gonna be for IGG, Mr. Dean's Discord. And I am also gonna extend one more little shout out to Miss Sefla, which has been helping us and promoting us very much. That fourth Discord is Sefla's. Go there and join her community. She's a great Final Fantasy 14 content creator, Twitch streamer, YouTuber, and an all-around lovely person. Go and give her all the support and love in the world. She's usually gonna join us on most of the runs, Monday through Thursday going forward at 1600 server time. So please look forward to that. Please go and watch her streams because she's a lot more entertaining than I am. Right.
Alright, so I think we should wrap this all up.
Yeah.
With this has been ExCog Radio. This has been your hosts, Dean and Lux, or Aoyuki and Lux, and our special guest, who's probably going to be more than a special guest, Variel, who will probably come on a bit, I think.
I intend to be here pretty regularly.
Cool, so our regular guest, or I suppose co-host, another co-host maybe?
Founding member. Where's my special Facebook symbol?
You find that in your mailbox later on in life.
Hopefully I get that. Hopefully I get that on like my Shadowbringers pre-order bonus. Damn it!
Right, you didn't get it yet?
No,
Alright,
because
guys.
I bought it through Steam.
Ah.
So guys, until then, keep it easy, guys. So checking out.
Yeah, everyone, have a good one, and I hope to see you next time on the first episode and the first proper episode of ExCog Radio. This was a lot of fun, and I think we can definitely work on this and have a good product and a nice thing going forward here. Oh yeah, and also we have a BA run tonight, by the way. I forgot to actually probably promote the run coming up in just a couple of hours from lovely Miss Tomoe Fukuhara at 1800 server time. We have a newbie run that's gonna be hosted by her, co-raid lead by me or Morgana Brown. We're still working out the details, but you're gonna be in good hands. Either way, Tomoe has been with us since the early days of the first Discord we had, and she's a lovely friend and a really nice person. She's been beginning to become a really good raid leader too, and I'm looking forward to seeing her working today. And I'm gonna be there backing up, and we're gonna have a lot of fun like usual. So I think that was all I wanted to plug. And
Alright.
And all we should say
Everyone. So for everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all later.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm gonna now end my voice recording.